Welcome to Think, React, Lead, bringing you insights and strategies for thinking as an executive, reacting like a soldier, and leading in all aspects of your life. Here's your host, executive coach and leadership speaker, Dom Faussette.
Hey, welcome to the Think, React, Lead podcast, where you will be provided insights when thinking as an executive, reacting like a soldier, and leading in various aspects of your life. I'm your host, Dom Faussette. Yes, it can be defined, but is it reality? We're talking about being overwhelmed. We've all either said it or we know somebody that has, and let's just say we all have actually said it. I'm overwhelmed. Overwhelmed, by definition, is being submerged under mess, right? And I'm sure there's a more elaborate way to define that, but being submerged under mess. Yes, if my house were to collapse on me right now, that would make sense. I'm overwhelmed. I would meet that definition. But what about the non-tangibles of being overwhelmed? The non-tangibles are, we say we're overwhelmed, but yet we don't define what's overwhelming us. And if we do define what's overwhelming us, we don't write those things down. And if we do write those things down, we don't take action on knocking one out at a time. I strongly feel that, yes, overwhelm can be defined, it's proven, but being overwhelmed is not even a thing. It's non-existent. The opposite of the word overwhelmed, or the antonym, is successful, and there's a laundry list of words, but let's just use the word successful. Instead of saying I'm overwhelmed, you can say to yourself, there's things on my plate that are going to cause me or allow me to be successful, or enable me to work towards being successful. And I've said this 1,000 times, success is not monetary. It's a feeling, nothing more, nothing less. So success is a feeling. More oftentimes than not, we wake up and we say to ourselves, oh, it's a Monday, or, oh, I'm overwhelmed, or the stresses. Okay, what I have found is that majority of these things that we mention either in our head or aloud are not even real. And I have also found that if you do work, like you put in work, you don't pay attention to the things that overwhelm you. For example, check this out. Go back to when you started walking. Most of us don't remember because we were less than 2 years of age, but you start walking. And if you were to have the ability to tell yourself, I'm overwhelmed, you wouldn't walk for years later. Look at the job that you have now, or look at the company that you own today. Then go back to the time that you first started working, your first job ever out the door. For me, it was mowing lawns at the age of 11, or baling hay at the age of 12. If somebody were to give me, say, my AVP at Chase position that I had 5 or 6 years ago, maybe 7 years ago now, but gave me that position at the age of 11 when I had my first job, right, I'd say I was overwhelmed. But everything that I did from that moment at the age of 10 when I started working positioned me, and again, the key word there is did. So in order to do something, you have to take action. So everything that I did from that day of being 10 years of age and mowing lawns and baling hay at 11 prepped me for becoming an AVP, or in this case, I think I'm about 11 months out from when I left my corporate position and became self-employed. Doing work is going to be the cure for your stresses, for being overwhelmed, which I would strongly urge or suggest, or maybe even recommend that you don't use that verbiage ever again, because you're not overwhelmed. You just say, I'm on a track to being successful, right? I'm going to be the obvious choice. That's a phrase that I use every single day. Be the obvious choice. What can I do today to show that I'm the obvious choice? In your business, what can you do to become the obvious choice? In your relationship or relationships, what can you do to be the obvious choice? If there's a moment throughout the day that I might feel overwhelmed, that tells me that I need to stop what I'm doing, pivot, write some things down that are on my brain or on my heart, and then make adjustments to those things. Are you writing things down? Are you walking? And I normally have a little notebook next to me here, but I can't seem to find it. But Are you walking around with pen and pad? The reason why I suggest pen and pad, because the other day I have a notebook in my phone. The other day I found a note that I wrote a year and a half ago, and it was like some heavy, some serious, good to go, squared away information. And I'm like, wow, this is the answer I was looking for. I gave myself an answer 18 months ago to a question that I had 2 weeks ago. But had I written that down, and I stumbled upon that in my phone, had I written it down in, say, a journal, it would have stayed fresh or top of mind. Right. So I strongly suggest use a notebook of some sort as you're writing down these things. And these things that stress you out could potentially be the things that keep you up. How many of you, like me, have woken up at, let's say, 2:30 in the morning? Right. Nobody really wants to wake up at 2:30 in the morning. Let's just call it what it is. But you're up at 2:30 in the morning and you're just like, man, I got to do A, B, C, and D for my business in the morning. I have these clients or I have to speak, which leads me into another I'd say unscheduled conversation, speaking. I recently spoke over the weekend and I found myself backstage doing what everybody else was doing, throwing in their AirPods or their earbuds and prepping before they got on stage. And then I stopped. I said, you know what? I don't need to do this. I'm better than that. Not that the people that are doing that weren't better, but I've done this long enough and I speak from the heart that what am I prepping for? Because I typically don't get my message until I'm walking towards the microphone. Welcome, Dom Faussette. And I start walking towards the mic. I mean, I have an outline of what I'm going to do, but the message doesn't hit me that I'm going to deliver or the actions that I'm going to take. They don't hit me until I start walking towards the microphone. And that's about a 5 to 7 second time frame. If I were to be overwhelmed or tell myself I was overwhelmed and do the AirPod thing and walk up and down the hallway and take a ridiculous amount of notes, I don't think I'd be in a position to deliver a message to the specific audience that I get to fill when I'm on stage. For those of you that are speakers or want to be speakers, I'm not saying don't prepare. I do prepare. But there's pivots that I make immediately the moment I grab the mic or the moment I say my first words onto the microphone, which leads me into the home environment or leads us into the home environment. We all know what we need to do at home, but the more steps we take to not do them, the more overwhelmed we become. And then if you're anything like me, you'll hear from your wife, hey, honey, we need to talk. And you're like, dang it. I knew I should have just brought it up. And it's nothing serious. I mean, it happens in my household. Normally it's something to the effect of, I thought you said you were going to clean out the garage. I'm like, yeah, about that. It's 115 degrees outside. But if I get up at 4 a.m, then I don't have to worry about that. But let me get back to stating that you're overwhelmed or one is overwhelmed. The more you don't state that, the more your body can't prepare itself to not be overwhelmed. So if you say I'm overwhelmed, your body goes into prep mode. Prep my body to be overwhelmed. And what spawned this message was I heard somebody say the other day, everything always happens in threes. Something negative happened in their world. So that's one. They had a loss. They took an L. And they say everything happens in threes. So now their body, their mind, their spirit, their heart, whatever you want to call it, their environment begins to position itself for 2 more negative things to take place in their life. And I said to this person, I'm like, bro, that's dumb. Why in the world would one thing happen to you and then you verbalize 3? It always happens in threes. How about you just say, you know what? This happened and it won't happen again. I expect 2 more wins by the end of the day. And you may think it or you verbalize it, but whatever you're thinking, from a positive standpoint, I'm not jumping on the positivity bandwagon, but from a positive standpoint, a positive thought process, as you verbalize it or as you think it, you should be verbalizing it as well. So other than stating I'm overwhelmed, my question to you is, what are some things that you're saying or thinking that are subconsciously affording you bad results or negative results? And I say affording you because you're giving them permission to step, you're giving negative results or negative things to step into your life and actually come to fruition. As opposed to just saying that any antonym or any opposite word or phrase to the negative phrases that you think or you say. Secondly, what are your actions? Are your actions in direct correlation with where you want to go? And I use this analogy. You have a target downrange. You have, let's call it a gun. You have a gun. It's got a scope. In order for the target to be hit, the bullet has to eject from the barrel, or the bullet has to spin down the barrel. In order for that bullet to spin down the barrel, the primer has to be hit. In order for that primer to be hit on the back of your round, the trigger has to be pulled. But in order to even get to the point of pulling the trigger to guarantee that your round hits center mass or your target downrange, there's preparation, typically weeks of preparation and education to put you in a position to pull the trigger, and a millisecond later, said round hits the target. See, we're so quick to jump and pull the trigger, but we don't really ask ourselves, why am I not hitting this target? Or we do, but it's a fleeting answer or fleeting response. Why am I not hitting the target? Why am I not hitting my goals? Well, if anything taught me in the military, it's because there's no preparation. And you might think you're ready. Just like we all think we're ready. But if you think you're ready, I'd say go back and double the preparation that you did so that you can be the obvious choice, so that everything that you do comes off with integrity, or the phrase that we use in the military hills: honesty, integrity, loyalty, and service. Right? Are you doing it for the right reasons? Are you doing it for the right people? Are you doing it because it's something you want to do, or are you doing it because somebody suggested you would be good at it? And these are things that I wasn't privy to until I became more, let's use the phrase, enlightened in my later years in life. I'd say 35 on, but you don't have to wait that long to understand what your thought processes are. So just something I wanted to share with you as I heard that crazy phrase, everything happens to me in threes, which don't ever say that. That's just dumb. And ask yourself, what other dumb things am I telling myself? What other dumb things am I saying about myself? I mean, I could easily not be a good speaker if I just focus on the fact that I stuttered. I could easily not be a good thinker if I focus on the fact that 2 doctors suggested I might have or might have some sort of bipolarity or bipolarism, whatever the phrase is. I didn't look it up, right? It's not important to me, right? I am who I am, and I do what I do, but I stay in my wheelhouse and I focus on speaking and thought processes and things along those lines, right? So what are you saying that you're overwhelmed by? Make a list, check it twice, as the old adage goes, as we move towards Christmas. Actually, we're nowhere near Christmas, but I saw a post. And my mom likes to start prepping for Christmas this early in the year, which it's crazy. But hey, to each his own, whatever makes anybody happy. Hey, I hope you guys you're going to have an awesome, successful week. Take notes of your thoughts. And again, my name is Dom Faussette with Think, React, Lead. You can be found on YouTube, Think, React, Lead. Where else can we be found? Instagram, Facebook, Dom Faussette, Think, React, Lead. If you have any questions, feel free to either drop them in the comments here on YouTube, on Facebook, or wherever else this video might be posted. And have a wonderful day. We will chat soon.
You've been listening to Think, React, Lead. To connect with your authentic purpose, contact Dom at www.thinkreactlead.com.